Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Path to Play. It is Rory here.
And Valentina.
Today, we are back with another guest episode. This time, we have Eman here. Eman is currently a head coach for a couple ECNL teams at Snohomish United and also a former very high-level youth soccer player. Eman and I played academy soccer together for a while in high school, and we are excited to have his perspective as both a former athlete and a current coach. Welcome, Eman.
Hey guys, I'm super excited to be here. Ready to have some good conversations.
Yeah, we're excited to have you too.
All right, before we get into Eman's fun facts and everything, we are going to start off with a quick memory from back in Eman and I's playing days. So, Eman, I think you would remember this one, but Eman and his brother actually are both involved in the story. So, we had a practice and there was a bunch of traffic, I think. So, I was pretty late. I remember getting there. Our team's starting to warm up. I'm tying my cleats, trying to go super fast to get there for the warm up. And then behind me, I just hear two people breathing so hard. And I was like, what is happening? I turn around. It's E-Man dripping in sweat, late to practice. And I go, dude, what happened? And he goes, my car broke down about a mile away and we had to run here.
Oh
Do you
gosh.
remember that one?
Oh yes, trust me, I can't forget it. No, the car. It's a 1999 Honda Civic. It is an absolute beater car. That's the one that we used to go to practice every single day. And I just remember the day was super super hot. Like you said, there
Yep.
was so much traffic, and
Oh no.
me and my brother we were about a mile out. I probably actually set a mile record just because I didn't want to be late. Didn't want to be late, but our radiator hose blew out and then just steam started coming out. I had to leave the car there, call my dad, tell him to pick it up, and then me and my brother just ran to practice, and that's where I saw you there just laughing at us.
Yeah, it was honestly one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And I felt bad for laughing, but I just couldn't stop myself.
And aside from the fact that that's actually quite scary, did you get your car fixed? Like, were you able to use your car again, or was it just completely out of business after that?
Oh no, it came back to life. My dad,
Oh,
it was a
nice.
hose that got disconnected, and my dad got it back home. So
Dang. How much longer did that car last?
hey, it still runs today.
Oh, wow. There you go.
That's awesome.
Longevity. All right. So, getting into your soccer journey, can you just walk us through the progression of kind of very youth, rec, then club, high school, and
Mhm.
everything involved?
Okay, so for me, I'm a first generation Hispanic, Latino, Mexican here, and my parents both came from Mexico. They immigrated probably the 1990s, and so they had no idea what we were doing. But we had a church community that we started kind of playing with. Some of those guys played in the rec league in Monroe, and so after that, I started playing there. Our team was really good, so we started wanting to look for a little bit more competition. And so we started playing select soccer, which was a little bit higher than rec. And our team again was pretty good. And it was such a small select club where it was really just a couple friends' parents made a team. And back then you could make a select team and
Mm-hmm.
enter it into a league, right? And so after that, not a lot of kids were as committed. And my parents saw that my brother and I wanted to do more, and that's how we stumbled upon Snohomish United, which has a premier side. And so after that, I went from rec to select to premier with Snohomish. I was with Snohomish probably up until U16, about about U16, and that's when from there I transitioned to DA, which is a level higher than premier.
And DA, for everyone that doesn't know, is Developmental Academy? Or it
Development
used to be.
Academy. Yeah, it
Mhm.
used to be. So that used to be the Academy division, which is now pretty much the MLS Next Academy division.
Mhm.
That's right.
So I was lucky enough to have played every single level of youth soccer that there was in my time, you know? So I learned a lot in every level, but it's youth soccer has also changed so much now, but that's something where
Mhm.
I'm really grateful that I got to learn and work my way up step by step, level by level.
How would you say across that whole progression that your relationship with the sport changed? Did you have goals that might have changed, or did you have different plans at one point that ended up shifting to different plans?
So I think for me, when I first started, my whole thing was just having fun, right? And for
Mhm.
me, well, I think the rec and those lower levels, it was just more about hanging out with friends. And then once I probably got to around 9 years old, fun for me was going and winning and being better than other teams. And that's why I started to look for stuff to challenge myself, right? Then once I probably hit around the premier side, my goal was to improve myself and to improve my team and to start getting results. And that's something where I think for me in the youth, I sort of had this shift from really focusing on loving the game to going out there and trying to be one of the best players on the field and going to try and follow and get results. And I think that's why I slowly saw that me becoming more competitive as time went on.
That makes sense. Did you ever want to play in college, or was that something that you felt like you had in mind as a goal and then that eventually changed, or not really?
Well, for me, I think probably around freshman year of high school, I was I was a little bit interested in playing in college soccer. I never really I never really honestly envisioned myself because
Mhm.
I mean, my parents didn't know what college was, you know?
Right.
And
Mhm.
so I had no idea what college was, and I kinda learned as I went on. And, I think honestly around my senior year, I I was just honestly getting a little bit tired of soccer as well. You know, playing
Yeah.
12 years, that's something that we start seeing a lot too. Kids getting burned out, and that's something that happened to me, and it never really was a goal of mine, honestly.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think one thing that we've both talked about as younger siblings, and I know you obviously didn't get to experience this, but how much do you think you going through those experiences helped your younger brothers? Because now, obviously, one of your younger brothers plays at Seattle Pacific University.
Mhm. So for me, honestly, I think me being the first one to kind of go through stuff like that, I actually did learn how to start reaching out to colleges and like my younger brothers, they were already exposed to the higher level stuff earlier too. And so luckily I was able to tell them like, hey, if this is your goal, these are some of the things that you have to do and this is how many hours you have to put in because as you progress to the levels of soccer, the higher you go, the more time and sacrifices you have to make to go on and do it, right? And so I was lucky enough to have experienced that and kind of guide my little brothers through the college process, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's very similar to, I think, both of us, but I think
Yeah.
me especially, like, I remember very similarly to my parents came from Mexico City, and they had no idea what to do, and as far as sports went, much less the youth sports landscape, and so I do remember it was for sure a different learning journey with my sister, and then they had a little bit more of a sense of what to do when it came to my progression within all the different levels. It was hard overall though, because I know it like, they were kinda new, they didn't know what to do when it came to college sports recruitment even.
One perspective that I think you have that neither of us really have is the fact that you, like you were just saying, came from a smaller, more local club in
Mhm.
Snohomish United. So I wanted to ask you how the location and size of your club as of your youth club influenced your opportunities and development, and I guess overall just soccer experience growing up.
So for me, uh, part of the reason that we chose Snohomish United at first was because it was way closer to home. And so the commute was easier for my parents. I also have a big family, and I think almost every single one of my siblings have played soccer, right? And so it was a convenience thing for us, but also I think part of the reason that we stuck with Snohomish and we liked Snohomish is because being in a smaller club, you really do learn to work with what you have. You know, we don't have we don't have the player pools that these bigger clubs in the area like Crossfire and Shatter United have. And so for me, I thought it developed me personally, my character, in a way where you have to outwork these other kids. We might not always be the most talented squad, but that's something where the coaches here and the people here, for example, Anthony Sardin and Scott Uter, it's really imprinted in me, and that's something where uh, that small thing taught me that that's the small club vibe, the small club fam here really did teach me that you do have to, if you want to get somewhere, you have to really put in that extra effort and go to these extra trainings. And that's something that they always emphasize with us too. We'd be here from 5 to 9 sometimes because all of my siblings would have trainings and I'd be picking up extra trainings all the time.
I'm curious what the you felt like was different. I feel like you just said some of the reasons of how your first club, Snohomish versus Crossfire, your next club
Mhm.
were different. I'm curious from, I guess, the support that you felt that you had as a player. Did it feel like it was more personal from the smaller club side that you just described you had in Snohomish, or do you feel like there were more robust resources in Crossfire that might have been more helpful, or how were those 2 experiences different for you as a player?
So so for me, kind of going back to the small club thing, I think that I learned a lot of things from Snohomish. We didn't have the resources that we had when we went to Crossfire. Crossfire also has its pros, right? Being one of the best clubs in the nation, if not the best club in the nation right now in the ECNL, they would have us do trainings 4 times a week. We'd have scrimmages. Then on top of that, we would also sometimes have something called Force 10 where we would go and get workouts and lifts in. But no matter what, the focus was a little bit different at Crossfire. At Crossfire, also being it was also a little bit with the age, but at Crossfire, the focus is to win, right? And that's something where once you're at probably 16, 17, you want to try and get results, you want to try and get film to try and go on to play in college, which I think the goals are different for both of them. Because at Snohomish, a lot of the focus was development, and
Mhm.
so that's where I honestly got a deeper understanding of the game. I was taught a lot, and that's also where I was taught to work hard, and that's where I got a lot of my work ethic from as well. But it's
So
just two different stages in my life, two different goals from the clubs, and personal goals as well that kind of I feel for me helped me align pretty well with where I was at.
yeah. I feel like that is relatable to me, at least, with how my goals started progressing over time, and then you just naturally switch from one club to another club, right?
Yeah, I think that's a super good experience to have. That is pretty similar to mine where but I guess back when we were younger, there was a lot more local clubs. So I played at the club kind of like yours, where we probably only had 3 or 4 teams and maybe 2 age groups. And it is much more of a tight knit community, but you do learn a lot more things and you kind of join the bigger clubs. But it seems nowadays it's starting with that bigger club at, I don't know, like 8 or 9 years old. And so you
Mhm.
might miss out on that experience a little bit.
Mhm.
Just also going off of that, a lot of people, like you said, that is something that like I've been seeing a lot recently, and this is now a little bit kind of on my coach's side. That a lot of people want to make that jump to a bigger club. But a lot of the times that the kids that end up making a jump to the big clubs end up getting overlooked because they have 150, 200 kids at tryouts. And so some of those kids might not get the placement. They might not be playing in against opponents that are at their level, and that's something where I have seen some parents be frustrated with the placement and the opponents that they play against because they have such a big player pool. Where
Mhm.
here it's at Snohomish for me growing up, we would have enough for 2 teams, and the coaches would be able to personalize the feedback that I would get.
That's awesome. Are some of the coaches that you mentioned earlier, were any of those your coaches when you were younger?
Yeah, yes. Anthony Sardin was my coach, I believe, when I was U14. And so
Mm.
that's now, I think that would have been my second. or third year nine-a-side, and the field felt huge, right? And so
Yeah.
I just remember he would always yell at us, and but at the end of the day, it was him really, teaching us again that work ethic, but he has such a deep understanding of the game where at that age too, being able to learn from somebody like that, I feel really
Mhm.
helped me become just a more elite player. Then Scott Uteritz, I believe I had him U15 year. He did a really good job also kind of focusing on that high level, but he also kind of started teaching me to be a leader out on the field as well, you know, and not only how I could better myself, but also better my teammates around me. And that's something where I feel really helped me make that leap into the more elite levels of soccer.
Yeah, I think one thing that we've definitely realized that we kind of weren't realizing before once we started this podcast was how important our coaches are for
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
so many different aspects.
Yeah, can make or break the whole thing.
All right, so looking back on your youth career as a whole, is
Mhm.
there any support you think would have helped you a lot when you were moving through the ranks?
Yeah, I think honestly for me, it would have been more support from other people to my parents to learn the landscape, maybe whether it's a friend or a mentor. My parents kind of made friends as as we would go on, and
Mhm.
that's how we slowly started to learn more and more about the different levels. Because my parents, like I said, they didn't know anything, so they're on a clean slate, and I do wish that there was maybe a platform or somewhere where they could learn and just look up and be like, "Hey, look, like these are the levels, you know, this is the commitment that you guys would have to do and this is how you guys could get to the next step." And there is no this is exactly how you do it. There might not be one right now still of these are the things you need to do to attain these levels, but there is also people like honestly Anthony is one person that really did help us progress to that next level because he's been around the soccer landscape a lot. At the time, DA was super, super exclusive. There was only 2 teams in the state that had it. It was the Sounders Academy and Crossfire. And so he's the one that was like, "Well, hey, look, there is this next level." And at the time, we had RCO, which was just our state league, right? But he saw that I was playing really good, and I was one of the best players on my team. And so he's the one that kind of started reaching out to the other coach, Bernie James, and was like, "Hey, there's this player that you need to look at." And so he helped me get introduced to him, and he told my parents about it. And honestly, at first I was a little hesitant because I was afraid of something new, but he's the one that taught my dad a little bit and spoke to him and was like, "Hey, I know he's a little unsure, but I think you should help him make that push." And my dad had a conversation with me, and I ended up going with my brother as well. My brother also was a very good soccer player, and that's how honestly I made that leap to the DA. And so there are a few people, but I do wish that my parents had a little bit more, you know, more help. But I think they did a great job.
Based on your experience or looking back now, what is something you would say to yourself as advice for anything regarding your whole soccer journey?
Honestly, something that I remind myself, and now also me being a coach, I try and remind the kids is if you really want something, you have to commit to it. You know, you have to put in the hours. You sometimes have to make sacrifices. You know, whether it's getting there 30 minutes early or getting there to get picking up extra trainings, going to the high school with your brother and training before, you know, like I feel that a lot of things are achievable, but you do have to put in the work, right? That saying that hard work beats talent, like it is true. There's a lot of kids, especially in the younger side, where they're not as committed and they don't get what they want, and I see a lot of frustration. But a lot of the times they just need to ask themselves, "Am I really putting in that work?" You know, and it takes time. It's all a process. You just have to commit to the process, and it'll all come.
Would you say that's probably one of your biggest lessons learned from your soccer journey?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think for me, I really wanted to go and keep progressing, and, that's where I would go and pick up those extra trainings all the time, you know, and I think being around people that also want to go and progress is also an important thing, you know?
Mhm.
And so it's honestly just about finding that motivation intrinsically, and you'll be successful, you know? And that's something where I'm glad that I found that, and I had a good support group with my siblings and my parents and coaches, and I think that's really what helped me keep going.
Very well said.
Yeah,
Very
very
wise words.
yeah, very wise words. I One thing I really liked about what you said there was when you have friends and other people around you who will go do it with you. Like you said, my brother and I would just always go train, and so it made the extra work not really feel like extra work, and it wasn't a task to go do it because I was there with my brother having fun and other friends. So finding a group of people who also want to go work hard is huge in that process.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Totally.
The environment definitely matters. Do you have a favorite memory that comes to mind from being an athlete?
Honestly, one of my favorite memories was once I got to Crossfire, I just loved, like, the competitiveness there with Soto and even with Rory too. Once we got to the DA, we were playing against some kids that are now professional D1 athletes. You know, all these kids wanted to go play pro. And I just remember every single training, it was just a whole different environment. Every single training, we'd go in super hard into the tackles. I would be cussing out my friends sometimes if they gave me a bad ball, and that's something where, I mean, now in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have been doing it, but it really, for me, that mentality is something that once you're at the high levels, a lot of people are like that, and you just have to learn how to deal with it, and you
Mhm.
sometimes got to learn how to dish it out too, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, we had a few back and forths in our day.
Yeah, even with Rory, I think we almost got in a fist fight.
Oh, that's awesome. It builds character, it
It
truly
does.
does.
Yeah, I mean, all those guys also understood that what happens in practice stays in
Mhm,
practice after it's whatever, you know? We're all
Mhm.
friends.
Yeah, it's a fun mindset to be in because you can try as hard as you possibly can, but then once you're done, and they're your boys again.
Yeah,
mhm.
exactly.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on, Eman. We really appreciate you taking the time, sharing your story. And surprise for you guys, next week we will have Eman on for a part two, but this time his coaching perspective.
Yeah, we can't wait for you to be our first part 2, E-man.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you and see you guys next week.